We're on Daf Nun Daled Amid Beis. Naflu, these Agoze Orla fell into a mixture of Agoze Heter, and everything was Shalem. So at that moment in time, we could not apply the principle of Bittel because it's a Davar Sheb Minyan, Afilu Be'elef Lo Batel. But afterwards, V'nitz Patu. Now they were smashed, and they're no longer whole. And the chashivas is completely betela, and therefore we should apply the principle of bittul. But the only thing is, we have a principle that ein mevatlin isa lechatchila. And yet, Rabbi Meir holds the following: echad shogig vechad mezid lo yalu. Meaning, if he was not trying to deliberately create a bittul situation when he did the P'tzia, but rather he was a shogeg. He didn't have kavanah to be mavatal the chashivus. He was just breaking the nuts because he wanted to eat the nuts. So then, if his intention was not to try to create a bittul, by the way, in Arla is 1 against 200, then in such a case, even in a case of shogeg, because we're dealing with an isa d'rabbanan of ein mevatlin isa l'chatchila, we're going to constant shogeg or to mezid divrei Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda, divrei Rabbi Meir vir Rabbi Yehuda. So we see here that Rabbi Yehuda, who normally would say that lo kansin shogig to mezid in a drabanan, and yet here he's going to apply kansin shogig to mezid. He's going to suspend the application of bittul because of the violation of a drabanan b'shogeg of mavatlin isul chatchila. Rabbi Yotzi, Rabbi Shimon Omrim b'shogeg yalu b'mezid lo yalu. If he did not intend deliberately to be mavatel the iser by doing this p'tzia and being mafkir the chashivus, so that we can apply bittul, then we're going to allow bittul to operate, because now we no longer have a davar chashuv, a davar shalem, a davar shebiminyan, but b'mezid lo yalu. So Gemara has the following kasha: hacha David Raisa chad betray batel. Even in a davar chashuv, the Torah recognizes bittul chad betray. Chad betray means it's yavesh b'yavesh. Rabbanan who the gazer Rabbanan prohibited applying the principle of bittul betray, chad betray in a case of a davar sheb minyan, because if it's chashivas, it's not batel. So therefore, even if he was potzei and then b'mezid, he's only violating an isa d'rabbanan, because on a deraisa level, everything is already mutter. It's batel chad betray. The entire halach of suspending bittul in a davar chashuv, like a davar shemaminyan, is only d'rabbanan. So with the rice, everything is batel. And yet, Rabbi Yehuda, who we know, measures things by the chumas havera, kokonis Rabbi Yehuda, and he says, like Rabbi Meir in this particular brisa, that the bittul will not apply, and everything is awesome. So we see clearly that Rabbi Yehuda holds considered shogig to mezid, even in an isa d'rabbanan. But Rabbi Yehuda did not impose the knas in the case of a shogig because it's only d'rabbanan. And the Gemara answers, in the case of davar shebeminyan, where it's very easy for him to get away with bittul and set up a bittul with his own hands by breaking down these complete walnuts. So we have to really worry, says Rabbi Yehuda, that the person who do a harama, he's going to try to pull a fast one over our heads, and he's going to say, you know what, I did not do this p'tzia b'mezid, I only did it b'shog. But Rabbi Yossi, Ad Rabbi Yossi. But now we're going to ask a kasha from a Mishnah in Orla, which seems to contradict Rabbi Yossi's principle as formulated in the price that we just quoted above. Let's just review that Rabbi Yossi, together with Rabbi Shimon, are of the opinion that we differentiate between niftza'u b'shogeg, as opposed to niftza'u b'mezid. But we have a Mishnah in Orla, Netiya shel Orla v'shel Kalaya Kerem shenis Arvu b'netiyos acheros. So you have a chefsa di surah netia, whether it's kilayim or whether it's arla, and it got mixed up with other netios of heter. Hareza lo yalakit. He should not be collecting the payros from all these trees in this mixture, because as long as they are mechubaros, there's no bittul. And by taking them out of the ground and making them tlushim, he's going to create with his hands bittul. And that's a violation of the Isur of Ein Mevatlin Isur L'Chatchila. So he's not allowed to be malakit to payros. And right now, as long as they are netios mechubaros, they have chashivus, and there's no bittul. But what happens if he went ahead and b'cholzot, he plucked them out of the ground, these netios? He didn't ask any Talmidei Chacham for a heter. He thought, they're bottle. One netia mixed up with 100 netias, it's bottle. And he thought, therefore, there's no Isa. So that's called the shogeg. Is yalu b'echad masayim. Now we can apply bittul. And this is against Rabbi Yossi's statement above in the Brisa that right, as long as he didn't have kavanah to be mevatel it. Oh, so that's the Tanakama. So this Tanakama here in this mission in Orla seems to reflect the sheet of Rabbi Yossi, who differentiates, like Rabbi Shimon, between b'shogeg yalu and b'mezid lo yalu. But now the Mishnah quotes the Mishnah in Orla quotes the dissenting view of Rabbi Yossi. Afam is kami l'laked yalu b'echeru masayim. Even if he was mavatal the Isur b'mezid, the bittul will be chal. And that's exactly against what we saw in the Brisa above, that Rabbi Yossi holds in the case of Tarovas Aguzei Orla, Agozei Orla Bagozei Heter, that if he was potsei them b'mezid, then even b'di'evet eino b'telet. And when it says, Itmar Allah, Amarava Chazaka ein Adam Osas Karmo B'netia Achas. So Rava says the following: we have a chazaka that a person who's notea, he's not going to be notea a netia of orla amongst the other netios without a simon, without being able to recognize which one is a netia shel orla. And likewise, osers karmo b'netiachas. Person would not mix up a netia of klaya kerem together with other netios. And therefore the whole business here is davar she'eino shchia. And something that's so unusual, the Rabbanu were not machmir to say that if he was malakited, we should prohibit it, even though it's no longer got chashivus, because he went ahead and he violated ein mevatlin isur l'chatchila. However, a mixture of Isur and Heter is something shchia, and therefore the Rabbanan prohibited the case of Mezid. V'chein ki yasser Ravin Rabbi Yochanan chazokein of osers karam v'netiachas. And this leads us to the Mishnah of Mefagel here on Daf Nun Daled Omin Beis. Hakonim shepiglu b'migdash mezidim chayov. I never understood this. How could a Kohen do such a thing? But in any event, so deliberately at the time of the Avodas HaKarbon, he had a machshav of chutzim zman of chutzim komo, which generates an Isur pigul, and it's mafkia and posel the carbon. It's like we'll get to Mitzvah in 2 or 3 days to Kamsa bar Kamsa. And Mezidim, if he did it, b'mezid chayovim. What does that mean, chayovim? Chayovim means the Kohen is going to have to pay the domim, the worth of value of this carbon to the Bailam. And now we're going to learn the sugya. When is a person believed to say that he did something to someone else's property that made it us? Torah Rabbanon, a Balabayas who had a worker in his employment. And this employee is working with taras. And the poel says to the balabais, I have bad news for you. Tahoro shasisi mach nitmu. Now we have another case. Kohen was a osa imo bizvachim. So let's say one Kohen brought a korban, and another Kohen was doing the avodah. The v'yamar lo, and the Kohen ha'oved says to him, zvachim shasisi mach nispalgu. And in both these cases, the Brisa establishes Neman. He's believed. We'll have to see why he's believed. If he designates, if he specifies a certain day, and he says that those taras that I was working on that day, nitmu, or it's v'achim shasisi mach, in the case of a Kohen doing the avodah, biyom ploni nispaglu eno Neman. What's the difference here between Tahora Shasisi Imach and Tahora Shasisi Imach beyond Ploni Yomer? Abaye kol shebiyodu nem. Abaye says that the nemanus of a poel, or for that matter of a kohen, to be mitame or to passel a korban, is based on something called biyodu. Biyodo means that now, right now, when he's testifying on X, he could bring that reality into force. So, for example, the Kohen is saying that right now, I am telling you I was mafagel. Right now, he could be mafagel, meaning let's say he started the avod of shchita and he still has the avod of kapola, holoch, and zrika, etc. But if he says Yom Ploni, that day is gone already. You remember those old calendars we used to rip off the day? He already took the day off the calendar. It's no longer biyado. And if he's not believed to say that someone else's property is awesome. Rava says no. Even in the case where it's not biyado, he's neman. In the Sefer of the Brisa, when he says Tahora Shasisi Mach B'Yom Ploni Nitmu Eino Neman, says Rava Kigon de Ashkechei V'Lomer Lev Lo Midi. Wait a minute, there's something very fishy going on. He met the guy on Sunday. This poel met his employer on Sunday, or the Kohen who did the avodah met the other Kohen on Sunday. Said nothing. Then he meets him on Monday, and he starts blabbling, telling him a whole story. Oh, I was matami them, I was mafagil. Why didn't he tell him on the first round? The Bailam had to know that his taros were tmeim. The Kohen has to know that his korban was pigel. Something is fishy going on over here. We don't trust him if a day goes by. The Gemara now brings a story with a psak of Rabbi Ami. Hahu diyomalei lechavre, a man says to his friend, Tarosh Asisi mach biyom ploni nitmu. And the case came in front of Rabbi Ami. Osolekame the Rabbi Ami. Do we believe him or do we not? Amalei. And Rabbi Ami said, Shuras hadin, according to the strict letter of the law, you can be machmir on yourself if you want. But Edo Nema. There's no objective halachic nemanus to this because again he added biyom ploni. Amal in front of Rabbi Asi, and this statement of and ruling of Rabbi Ami came to the attention of Rabbi Asi. These were the two great Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan who came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel. Rebbe, Ataomer Kain. You're saying he's not believed? I learned by Rabbi Yochanan as well. And I'll tell you what I heard from Rabbi Yochanan. Hachi Omer Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Yosef. Ma esesh haTorah eminaso. The Torah believes an Eid Echad to testify that there was Tumah here, there was Pigel, there was Makilkul. Even if he says it Lachar Zman. And now Rabbi Yochanan is going to invoke a sugya of Kohen Gadol Lifnai V'Lifnim on Yom Kippurim to prove that even after this mind you are believed. Heichan eminato, where do we see that the Torah in fact believed you even lachar zman? Rabbi Yitzchak bar Bisna, Kohen Gadol, B'Yom Kippur Yochiach Techi, Omer Pigul Be'emen. The Kohen Gadol comes along and he says that there was Pigul on the karma, and he's believed. He points out here in the name of the Balei Tosfos that it doesn't say befeirush that there's Pigul in Karbanos of Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippurim, but it was Pasha to Chazal that the general din of Pigul, Omer B'Torah Kol Karbanos, include even the Karbanos of the Kohen Gadol. V'yein lo hotzi min haklal as a Karbanos shel Yom Kippurim. Uminoy Adinon. From whence do we know that just 1 second. So it's interesting. The Minaya Di'inon here of Rabbi Yitzchak bar Bisna is what I call playing the devil's advocate. He's saying the following, the Torah has created a parsha of Pigul. And excuse me for 1 minute, Rabbi. I'm getting a little displacement over here. Just 1 second.
No. How many minutes more?
No.
5 minutes?
I think I have 10 more minutes. Go ahead and sit down and
Waste, never.
So we were up to Minoya Di'inon. So the one who raises this question, Minoya Di'inon, is assuming that the Kohen would not be believed. And therefore, what are you going to say? Okay, so where's Pigul? We know there's Pigul on the Karbanos of Yom Kippurim like any other Karban. So how do we know it's Pigul? You're going to tell me, we don't trust the Kohen to say it himself? So you're going to tell me that we must have seen or heard that he was mefagel? That's impossible. For Ksiv, the Torah says in Parshas Achrei Mos, with regard to Avodas Kohen Gadol beheichal v'kodesh kadoshim on Yom Kippur, kol adam lo yeh ba'oel moed b'vo lechaper kodesh hatzeisa. No one's there. Not even a Malach Hashem is there. So nobody could know that it's Pigul. So how do you have Pigul on Yom Kippur? It must be that he's never to say that he's mefagel. El la mishum deheman. So when he comes out of the avoda from the heichal or the kodesh kadoshim, and he says, "I did the avoda inside the heichal or inside the kodesh kadoshim k'ktores, and I did it with Pigul," he's believed. Otherwise, there's no entity of Pigul. So it must be that we trust him, even liachar zman. So Gemara rejects this. Although it's true that no one goes into the heichal of the kodesh kadoshim to see that he was mefagel, but they may have stood outside and heard that he was mefagel. Dilma deshami levefagel. They heard the Kohen Gadol say, "B'kol ram areini shochet al manas lahaktir eburim chutz lizman or chutz koma." So we don't have any proof that from the entity of Pigul on Avodas Yom Kippurim that the Kohen is never even liachar zman. Because maybe we heard him make the statement that he's shechting it liachar zman, to be makter the imurim liachar zman. Now here there's a whole long discussion about whether we can prove from this Gemara that Ein Pigul Ela B'Dibur, that Pigul is not b'machshava. And Tosa Rosh says, no, Ein Lo Chiach Mikan Shein Pigul Ela B'Dibur, L'fisha Afim Yesh Pigul b'machshava b'korban shel atzmo mikol makom Dilma de Shamina de Pigul. It could be that he's not believed when it's b'machshava, but he's only believed when it was b'dibur. Ilav de meheman afal gav de Shamina nami lo meheman. If he wouldn't be believed al pi diburo, then what we heard would also not be reliable. To do basar hachi kamar. Maybe after he finished the avoda, and it's no longer biyado to be mafagel, he announces b'kol ram chutz lizmano. We have to therefore assume that he's ne'eman. Oh, so if he's ne'eman, then we have now a proof to support the shita of Rabbi Asi in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that the Torah believes a person even after Zman, which we'll have to come back to our Mishnah and reconcile that with our Mishnah. The one says, no, there's no proof. Dilma de chazine b'pishpash. There is a way of seeing, even from outside the Heichal, when the Kohen is doing the Avodah B'fnim. And that's where there's Pigul, in the Kohen Gadol Yom HaKippur. So we saw a derech pishpash. Like there's some sort of opening, like a crack in the Heichal. He calls it Mibeis HaChalifos. So at the time that he did the Hazah, and he says he was Mefagel the Karmel, we actually saw it. And the Gemara says, therefore, Kasha. So we have an outstanding question on Rabbi Yossi, who says that we're going to prove from the Kohen Gadol that there's Ne'emanus. You can't prove anything. It could be pishpesh. Hahudasil kami de Rabbi Ami Amalei Sefer Torah shekasavti leploni. Okay, now we're getting into heavy into the laws of Sefer Torah. As kor shelo lo kasavtim lishman. The Sefer Torah is possible. And why is it possible? Because the Azkaros have to be written lishma. The Shemus HaKodesh have to be written lishma, and he didn't write it lishma. Amalei Rabbi Ami said, Sefer Torah biad mi. Who's holding on to the Sefer right now? Amalei biad lokech. The purchaser already has possession over the Sefer. Amalei nemanat alafsid schorcha v'iyato nemalafsid Sefer Torah. You do not have ne'emanis to passel the Sefer Torah because the Sefer is no longer biyodcha. And this reflects what we saw in Abaye, that you're only believed to passel something because it's biyodcha. However, by your own admission, you don't deserve to be paid for the Sefer. So chalk up the money. Odos baldin k'me'edim dom. Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah turns to Rav Ami, he says, Nehi. Even though it's true that if it's charas karos, you can't expect him to be paid for the askaros that were written shalol lishmon by his own admission. But schar sefer Torah kulei mi hifsid. And this Gemara is a pella because vare me'achash lo niftavu askaros lishmon a sefer posel lama lo yafsid schar al kol sefer. He should not be paid a dime because the Sefer Torah is possible. I don't care if he wrote 99% of the Sefer Kosher, but it's possible. So we don't know exactly what Rabbi Yirmiyah had in mind. Amalei Rabbi Ami says to him, and you're right. You admit that he passed the Sefer Torah. If he passed the Sefer Torah, what's the Sefer Torah worth? Kol Sefer Torah shein azkar shelo ksuvas l'shmona ein shava klum. And therefore, he has to forfeit the entire payment for writing the Sefer Torah. There is some value to the Sefer Torah. Why? Because you could do Avaras Kulmus. Now you could do a second round of writing on top of the Sav Shalol Lishma and write it L'Shem Kedushas Hashem. Again, this is a very, very profound sugi. We're just not even touching the the Kotzel Shal Yud, especially it's after a whole block. Anyway, Kiman, which Tanoim agreed to Rabbi Ami that this sefer cannot be fixed, and which Tanoim would agree that the sefer can be fixed? Is that some machlokes between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, or shall we say the Chacham and Rabbi Yehuda? Name of the Lok Rabbi Yehuda. This not a Reishal Yitzarich Lichtov as Hashem and this Gam Lichtov Yehuda, and he dropped the Dalet, and therefore he's left with Yud Kei Vav K. But he wrote it L'Shem, this name Yehuda. So without L'Shem, Kedushas, he didn't have L'Shma. Come on, Kedushas Hashem. V'tovelo hitobo dalas maver all of kumus and Mekacha according to Rabbi Yehuda. He does a Ksav Elyon, and if the Ksav Elyon was written L'Shem Kedushas Hashem, it's kosher. The Rabbi Yehuda Rachamim Hashem and Amuvchar. You cannot be machshir the sefer with Ksav Elyon because the Ksav Tachnon is still going to bother us. It's not min Amuvchar. He has a Ksav Tachnon with the Shem Shalol Lishma. So therefore, the Gemara says Rabbi Ami, who says that the sefer is worthless, he holds against Rabbi Yehuda, but rather like the Chachamim. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's takana to the sefer because it can be marvel of kumis and have lishma the Azkar Hashem. Gemara says, "Ne, afilu tamer Rabbi Yehuda." Even if Rabbi Ami holds like Rabbi Yehuda, nevertheless, we understand why this sefer is meaningless, is worthless. Ad kan lo kam Rabbi Yehuda ela b'chadas kar. Rabbi Yehuda was only talking where it's not menumar, which means there was one azkara that was written shalol lishma. But if the kulei sefer Torah, if the azkaras throughout the entire sefer were written shalol lishma lo, Rabbi Yehuda would not allow for Ksav Elyon to be machshir, marvel of kumas and machshiro. Mishum de mechse ki menumar. It looks like a leopard, meaning like it has, like blotches, ksumim. Because, when you put a second layer of ink on top of the bottom layer, it juts out. So it's obvious that, this is a problematic. That the gvilin have to be tanned lishma, ibud lishma. And now he's telling him the sefer is possible. Amalei Rabbi Yafo said sefer Torah b'yad mi. Amalei b'yad lokech. Amalei mitosh atanem elahafsid chavrecha. Atanem elahafsid sefer Torah. The exact opposite. Rabbi Yafo is the exact opposite of Rabbi Meir, of Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Ami said that you're not believed to be mafsid the sefer Torah if it's not beyond, but you will forfeit your schar. And Rabbi Yafo says the exact opposite. That once we believe you to be mafsid your schar, the memela we're going to believe you to passel the sefer Torah. We've already established that your statement is true, is reliable. And you're not saying it just to get this guy angry, and disappointed about the sefer that he wanted to make a haknas sefer Torah. So if we believe him lahafsid schar, then we have to believe him that the sefer Torah is possible. And now we turn to Daf Nun Hey. So Gemara asks, "Umay shnomi the Rabbi Ami." Rabbi Ami, in the story that we had earlier, said he's not believed to passel the sefer, even though he's believed to be mafsid his schar. The Gemara says, "Hasam." There in the story of Rabbi Ami, equal and meimar toy with Rabbi Yirmiyah. The sofer made a mistake, and he thought that he's not going to lose anything in the payment except for the schar for the azkaros, and that was Rabbi Yirmiyah before. Therefore, it's very possible that he was saying this in order to anger the Baal HaSefer, because he knows, based on Rabbi Yirmiyah, that he could pocket 99% of his payment. But here the Maisa Gvilin came to call Mafsid Kuli Agra, since, according to his own admission, he will forfeit the entire, he won't get paid even a grush for writing the Sefer Torah. Is the Asa V'Yomar, and we said that he's believed to be mafsid his schar, is therefore Emer Kushtak Omar. He's not saying it to be a mitzayir the balabayas. He's really saying it because that's the truth, and therefore we believe him to apostle the Sefer Torah. And this leads us to the famous Mishnah of Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgidah, which Amir Hashem Bli Neder will do tomorrow. So let me wish you a great week and a great day. Cult.